Hello and welcome to today's segment of the timeline 1990 and 1991, the Persian Gulf War. It helps if I turn my papers right side up. The Persian Gulf War is also known as the Gulf War, Operation Desert Storm, Operation Desert Shield, or the First Iraq War. But we didn't realize at the time there was going to be a second Iraq War, so we didn't know that at the time. So, you may have noticed that there was a big gap between the end of Vietnam and our next major war conflict. This is not a coincidence. After losing the Vietnam War, the United States is involved in a bunch of messy little proxy for the Cold War totally type wars that are totally under the table, but we largely become isolationist. Backstory on a guy named Saddam Hussein. Saddam Hussein took over power in Iraq in 1979. He was technically a president, but much more like a dictator. The rest of the world largely agreed that he was not a good guy, and not at all nice to his own people, but he wasn't our problem. And so we stuck our fingers in our ears and closed our eyes and la and let him get on with it. In 1990 though, Saddam Hussein invaded the neighboring country of Kuwait. The United States was deeply interested in keeping oil prices in the Middle East stable. Kuwait is tiny, but oil rich. We did not want Saddam Hussein to get control of Kuwait's oil or to control access to the Persian Gulf, which is how a lot of oil gets shipped. After lots of sitting on our hands being isolationist, all of a sudden we decided that this was our issue. Long story short, the United States, in all our military glory, shows up, says to Saddam Hussein, we're the United States, you really want to do this? And Saddam Hussein thought for a minute and then said, nah, I don't really want Kuwait after all. I think I'll go home. The conflict lasted for fewer than 10 months. The United States lost fewer than 300 military personnel in the conflict. After 16 years of the Vietnam War and loss of tens of thousands of U.S. soldiers, this was a huge sigh of relief for the United States. There was hope that this would be the future of warfare. The United States would show up, a far superior military power, and the bad guy would go home. Okay, maybe not that easy.